everyone. It is Jewel Bakewell with Crown Jewel Realty, and we are in the New Orleans Home Search Podcast. I'm so excited to be with you guys today. As you know, we do the first and third Thursday of every month, and we cover a different real estate topic. So today we are covering closing costs. We hear that topic tossed around a lot. Everyone talks about closing costs and buyers having their down payment and their closing costs. No one ever describes what is closing costs, what is in closing costs, what are these fees, and what do they entail? So today I have Mr. Dante Cartello. He is with Title Management Group, and he is going to walk us through closing costs. What's it all about? Why is it needed? This is some insightful information. A lot of times we walk into situations in the real estate industry and we say, well, I didn't know that, or only if I knew, or no one explained that to me. So I really enjoy doing this podcast because it gives me the opportunity to share information that's not always readily available, not always explained thoroughly. And this way you can make an informed decision about your purchase before moving forward with it. New Orleans Home Search is your place to come to get information, to feel empowered as you move along with this home buying process. So I'm super excited to have Dante on today. Title management holds a really special place in my heart. I started with title management when I began in the business 10 years ago. They always show extra kind care with me and my clients. They're thorough with everything that they do. So I'm really excited to have an expert on with you today to discuss this topic that is not really heard about and people don't discuss it much. So thank you, Dante, for joining us today.
Thank you, Jewel, for having me. We appreciate it. Of course, all of us here at Title Management Group love working with you and your clients, and happy to help and shed some light, give some insight to your clients in any way we can. So thanks for having me, and happy to do it. Let's get into it.
Events are a great way for our members to connect, whether in person or virtually, at a designated time and place. Sign up to urbansmartnetwork.com and use our events feature to let others know about upcoming meetups, concerts, parties, conferences, or gatherings. With our one-click social media feature, you can invite anyone to an event, even people who haven't yet joined our network. Become an Urban Smart Network event creator today. It's absolutely free, only on urbansmartnetwork.com.
So today we have an attorney on. This is our chance to ask all of the questions to the attorney for free on this podcast. So I want to start off by asking you, Dante, to just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started in the real estate business.
First thing, Jewel, we're going to bill you for this. We'll just send it in the mail, okay?
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Went to law school, obviously, determined what industry I wanted to get into after that. And the one that I kept coming back to was the real estate. And as you know, there's a lot of motivated and people and entrepreneurs who are around the business, such as yourself. And it's, people who need insight and, that are helping drive the economy. And then you have your home buyers, your families, and it's a happy place of the law where we can help, and I enjoy being part of that. And with this company and having working with people like you, it's been great. And so we're rocking and rolling right now, and so happy to be a part of it. And just to kind of build on what you said before, before we get into the nuts and bolts of everything, kind of the gist of what these closing companies, what we do is kind of get from when your clients find a real estate agent and y'all put them under contract. Once you find the house you like, there's a large process from that contract being signed to when they actually close on it. And what we do is make sure everything goes smoothly, take care of any issues, and try to get y'all across the finish line. So, yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize the things that go on behind the scenes. So, as the public, they see, oh, it's a closing, what a happy time. They're at the title company. The buyer has their keys, the seller has their check, everyone's happy. And they don't see the interim, that process of getting to that point, and all the legal aspects that are entailed in it. So I want to start off by just explaining what is closing costs. So can you tell us what closing costs really is?
Sure. So we kind of break down the costs into three categories, so to speak, which are all under closing costs. First one I'll get into is title fees. So the home or property has a history, right? And so one of the costs is to pay for the title search, also called the abstracts, which goes back the history of ownership of that piece of property. That's a little process. It can be lengthy depending on certain pieces of property, but it kind of gives the story of who owned and the transfer of ownership of the history of that property. That's one that goes under those title fees. Once that search is done, there's a title exam done by a title attorney back here, and that's really getting a deep dive into what went on. Was there any issues that came up? Was there, certain defects on the ownership of the property that wasn't recorded properly, or certain different aspects? And that's a one that people don't really think about much, but it's a hugely important part to make sure that when they do buy that property, they know what they're getting, and that it's they can rest assured that it is in fact their property.
Yes.
And that's a cost that goes into it. There's other things like your notary fee and just a settlement closing fee. We for all the stuff you see in our team, we got a big team of people back here. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and it's not easy, and it costs some money to do that, and that's what those fees that are considered we put under title fees, stuff that's specific to the documents, and making sure that, the people, your clients, when they're buying their properties, that it's all legit and everything. The legwork has been done on the back end.
Awesome.
Any questions on that part? Those are pretty standard across the board. You may go up a couple dollars, down a couple dollars from title company to title company, but it's all, everyone, it might have a different name. One of them might say settlement fee, the other one might say closing fee or whatever, but it's all, similar stuff from company to company, that all that hard work and intense work that goes on behind the scenes after the house or property goes under contract.
Okay. And typically, who would you say pays what fees?
So all of those fees are generally paid by the buyer. Because those are stuff that you can shop for. You can go to different title companies for that, but we definitely make sure you should go to Title Management Group. Let me just say that. But yeah, those are generally buyer paid fees. Things can be negotiated in a contract, but generally customary, those are buyer paid fees.
And I just want to point out to buyers and also real estate agents, you also have to be mindful of the insurances and the taxes, because those two also play a role in your closing costs. So your homeowner's insurance, is this already in the flood zone? What parish is it in? Those things matter for closing costs. You can always ask the seller to pay closing costs, but I'm finding in this market where inventory is low, there's multiple buyers writing offers, and sellers are being hit with a lot of multiple offer situations. If you don't have to ask for closing costs as a buyer, you're placed in a better position to actually get the property. So it's definitely important to get those insurance quotes. know what the taxes are in the area that you plan to live, and be able to assess accordingly. So now that I mentioned the parishes, let's talk about the differences, right? Because I know there's a difference whether you live in Orleans or Jefferson Parish with the taxes. So can we talk about that?
When you talk about the property taxes, most parishes, aside from Orleans, you pay your property taxes at the end of the year, whereas Orleans, you pay it at the beginning of the year. So when you get to the home buying process, those taxes are generally prorated. So the seller will pay for the months that they lived in the property, and then the buyer subsequently will pay for the months that they lived in the property for that year. And again, obviously, if it's in Orleans, they were paid up front by the seller. There'll be a credit from the buyer, and vice versa if it's in other parishes, specifically Jefferson Parish, which is where we are located. But that's generally how those property taxes work, and they're prorated, accordingly. That's the fair way to do it.
Yes. Yeah, sellers always say, well, I paid my taxes already. Well, what happens with the money I spent? Well, I'm being reimbursed from this, and then we have to reassure them and show them that, yes, you are being reimbursed for those amounts. Yep. So we're showing them. Let's talk about how these closing costs are actually disclosed. So how do you let the buyer and the seller know, okay, this is what fees you can expect to have paid before we can finish this closing?
So, yeah, and we have the closing disclosures when you get to the closing, and that's what our team does in the back, along with the lender. If it's a finance sale, we kind of get into what's going on and try to itemize it as much as possible, so the client knows what they're buying, what they're paying for. I'm going to jump right into, I'm glad you said insurances a minute ago, because a large chunk of what closing costs are is the title insurance. That's the important stuff. You ready to get into it, Jewel?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready. Let's talk about title insurance.
So, a lot of people don't even think or know what title insurance is until it comes time to buy a house, right? And so there's two different types of title insurance. There's a lender's insurance if you are financing a house, getting a mortgage generally, and then there's owner's title insurance. So if you buy your property with money loaned from the bank, the lender is going to require that you purchase lender's title insurance. What that does, it protects their investment in the property. So the across the state, the numbers are all the same depending on the price of the loan. So however much money you borrow to put into that house, that's how much money you'll have to pay in lender's title insurance. So people come to the closing table and say, "Oh, what is that's the lenders. They're not gonna not protect give you all that money and not have their interests." And so that's one of the big costs that goes into it. When people look at the itemized list, that's going to be one of the bigger numbers, because that's the market value, and the lenders they're not going to not make you get their investment protected. And then the other one is the owner's title insurance, which is optional but highly, highly recommended. And what that does, it protects the buyer's interest in the property. They say, what's the difference? So if the lender's title insurance, as long as money is owed back to them on the property, they still have interest in it. So once that's gone, then they don't have any more. Their insurance doesn't cover that anymore. For the owner's title insurance, for as long as you own the property, even down to your heirs, the coverage is there for your property. So, for instance, we do, as I alluded to in the title fees initially, the title exam. When the attorneys back here go through the title history and see, hey, did something go wrong, or is it linear from owner to owner. Everything was fine. There's no issues once it gets to the current buyer. And if there's things, so we do the thorough exam, right? But there's certain things that may not be covered in that or may not pop up in there that there's no way for us to tell. The big one is undisclosed heirs. So someone's grandfather had a son that no one knew about.
Mm-hmm.
He died, no will, went to succession. All the heirs get the property, they sell it off. 10 years later, here comes the other heir, and he has a rightful interest in the house, and it's a big problem if you didn't pay that owner's title insurance, which really it's a one-time payment. When you're buying a house, you pay it once, and it covers you for as long as you own the property, even down, like I said, to your heirs. So that's just one example, and then we have a list right here. You give that to your listeners. 70-something ways you could lose your home, and one way to stop it, and that's choosing to buy the optional owner's title insurance.
So that's a big point, because people don't realize there's different ways that you can lose your home, and it's not just because you didn't pay your mortgage payment.
Right. You could have done everything right, and somewhere,
Yes.
Let's say another one is things weren't recorded properly. So it doesn't show up in our title search. So in our title exam, we don't see it. We don't see it because it's not there. And really, there was another sale. Anything could happen that was was recorded improperly, and all of a sudden something pops up, and now you have an issue, and you didn't buy the title insurance. Now you're in a world of trouble. You're going to have to start lawyering up or whatever the case may be to protect your interests. And sometimes there's nothing you can do. It's just it's something that you didn't know, that didn't show up. It's someone's fault years ago that they didn't do something properly, and now the current homeowner, who thinks they're the homeowner, has to pay the price. And it's really sad when that does happen.
Yes, and my clients, they see optional under title insurance on the closing disclosure, and they're like, "Oh, well, do I have to pay this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you do. You do. It's not optional. It really is something that you have to do to protect yourself and your family."
Right. Like you said, some people, and again, I understand, and everyone understands, it's a large investment. You're going out of pocket. You want to minimize spending if you can, but it's such a big investment regardless. You would pay that one-time price to protect it. That's how we look at it, is if you're going to invest so much in something, rather than cutting one little corner, you might as well spend that money and protect your investment rather than trying to cut back on costs. Because they said it's one time payment at the closing. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. The owner's title insurance is dependent on the sale price. So whatever the sale price is, there's a set number for that amount that the insurance would cost across the state. So we don't pocket that. We don't make that. We don't get to change those numbers. It's set by the insurance department. And so, that's a big one that, like you said, people see optional and say, "Oh, if I can save a few bucks," well, then 5 years down the line, they're shelling out thousands and thousands to try to protect their investment when they could have spent a few $100s to protect it on the front end. So.
Yes, that's important, because a lot of times you try to cut corners. They've already spent money on inspections, appraisal, and they see those fees, and they have to pay their down payment, of course. So anything to get that title insurance, that title cost down, they want to do. But I want to share.
That's when an expert real estate consultant like yourself comes in and says, "Well, I highly recommend that you protect this investment, and you can rest easy knowing that your investment is protected. That there's a number of different things that could have gone wrong, and you don't have to worry about that because you're protected."
Yeah, and I always like to say, do you trust Orleans Parish recorders to to have tracked everything down for this investment that you're making? I don't think so.
Right. Yeah. So that's another tidbit you should share with all of them, right?
Be it for business or pleasure, you can configure UrbanSmartNetwork.com to give you the most reliable social engagement. Think of UrbanSmartNetwork.com as the ultimate social networking headquarters that help you save precious time. Users have the option of creating a business or personal page that allows them to start an e-commerce business without any programming knowledge or marketing experience. Join UrbanSmartNetwork.com now, one of the fastest growing social media platforms.
I always tell this story because I teach the first time homeowners class, and I heard Mr. Fred Johnson from Neighborhood Development Foundation share this story, and I love sharing it. And it's a guy who was incarcerated, and he had a sister. It was only him and his sister as siblings, and his mom owned the house who passed away. Well, his mom passed away while he was in prison. And once he got out, he went back to the house thinking, okay, this is mom's house I'm going back to. And when he knocked on the door, there was a new buyer there. And it was a couple that had just bought the house. They're super excited, and they don't know who this stranger is knocking on the door saying it's his house. So they go to court. And I love asking the class, who do you think the house is for? Is it for, the guy who's just gotten out of jail going to his mom's house? Or is it the couple who just bought the house? And everyone says, oh, it's the couple. They just bought the house. It's theirs now. Well, in actuality, the judge ruled that it is the guy's house because it was sold under fraud. The sister sold the house without letting him know. And technically, he had a share of that home. So luckily, the new buyers had title insurance. If they did not have title insurance, they would have had to pay title fees, court costs. He could have taken the house back. They could have lost all their money that they spent on the house, all their money on moving expenses. So it could have definitely been a nightmare. So luckily they did have title insurance. And I know this is just something that people just aren't aware of that exists, and it really could happen.
Yeah, it's a shame because you see it more than you would like to, and it's as simple as just pay the insurance. You pay your car insurance and all these other things, and it's for your protection. And there's situations like that arise more than people would think, and if you have that insurance, you're covered.
Yes, for sure. So another thing is that buyers assume that sellers don't have anything to pay, right? They're the ones making all the money out of this. But there is a seller's fee for closing costs as well.
Yeah, so sellers generally will pay. There's a vendor's fee. Go figure. Orleans Parish has a document transfer tax fee that costs a couple $100. That's generally seller paid. The sellers generally pay the commissions. And then if there's curative work, so if there's something came up in the title search or it came up in a title exam that we have to fix, there was some sort of lien or judgment against the property that it can't transfer to the new owner until that's paid. The sellers will generally pay the fees or the costs associated with getting those cured, those remedies.
Yeah, and I want to really touch base on that because I had a seller who got road home money, right? So road home money, you see that on the property disclosures where the seller says, oh, well, I received this money. So I had a seller to receive road home money, and road home put a lien on the property stating that they had to be paid back once the property was sold. So this is something that's very important for sellers to keep in mind when you're borrowing money. You're getting maybe a SBA loan, you're refinancing, or even if somebody sues you, these are liens that could possibly go on this property. And when you in turn sell your property, they will have to be squared away before the deed can be transferred over to the new buyer.
One thing is like just code enforcement. You let the grass grow too tall for one summer, and they put the city put a lien on the house. That stuff like that has to be paid. And that's part of what we do is when the seller and the buyer come together, we make sure all that stuff's ironed out as best as we can to get that transaction done.
Yes, awesome. And I really want to thank you, Dante, for coming on and talking about this, because title insurance is so important, especially where we live. Even though we live in a technology age, I really wanted my listeners to be informed about what it is, how it can help them. And I just want you lastly to break down what's all included in it.
Included in the what?
Title insurance. So I know that attorney fees are included if you ever shall need an attorney in that situation.
Right. Yeah. So you pay. You said the insurance company they're coming to your defense. If something comes up that someone else says, hey, I have a claim, I have an interest. The guy got out of jail and came and said, hey, this is my mom's house. If the young couple had paid for their title insurance, their owner's insurance, then the insurance company would have provided the legal defense for them to fight against him and try to maintain possession of that property for them, ownership of that property. And so that's what they do. You're buying defense for that as well. That if something does come up, you have a large company going to bat for you as well.
And what do those fees normally run?
It depends. So if you were to hire, how much, if you bought an attorney, if you paid for an attorney that had come out of pocket for that, you got to pay a retainer right up front, and you start paying by the hour. If the other party wants to keep going, that can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars versus a couple $100 or a few $100 you could have spent in the front end. Rather than now, it could go up a lot. It could go up high into the tens of thousands of dollars that you would owe if you were going to pay for a defense attorney to protect your interests after the fact. That someone else has some sort of claim on the property.
Right. Yeah. Awesome information.
One thing I will add at the last part of the title, the closing costs, is there's a lot of recording fees. So when your documents, your sale, the mortgage, things like that have to be recorded in the parish where the property is located, and that puts it on the book, so everyone knows that's you're the owner of the property, and that whether it's a conveyance or mortgage records for different documents, but there's different parishes have different costs. You can probably guess which one's the highest.
Yes.
different recording costs, but that stuff, you pay at the closing, that goes straight to the parishes, and we make sure that after, your sale's done and you go home with the house, we record that stuff to make sure it's, effective against third parties down the road. So that's the last bit of it. If there's more papers, more documents, let's say you sign a power of attorney or there's a no work affidavit on a new construction, just different things. It might be a little bit higher if you have to file more sheets of paper, literally. But that's one that goes into it that people might see. What's this recording fee? And that's what that is.
Yeah, I have that question next a lot. What's it recording, or messenger fee, those sorts of things.
Yeah, that's all the stuff that goes into the parish. So it's on that book forever. It's recorded there and it's not going anywhere. So if you go to sell it and the title company does the search again, it's going to say, hey, current owner is Jewel Bakewell or whoever. So. Yep.
Yes, and that's so important. And it's also, I coach my clients, my buying and my selling clients, read the closing disclosure, understand it. by law, all fees have to be disclosed and made available to the buyer and the seller. So no one can say, oh, I didn't know about this fee, or I didn't know. It's literally laid out line item, each item, and what the fee is. So it definitely helps out the buyers. I know it wasn't always that way, but after the 2008 mortgage crisis, it became a lot stricter for everyone to kind of know, okay, this is what I'm spending. It's clear. There's no extra language. There's no small print. I know what I'm spending my money on, and I know what is coming out of it. So I really like the way the closing disclosures are given out now to the buyers and the sellers.
You do. So the experienced agents, or not even experienced, thorough agents will go over that stuff or make their clients known before they get to closing. So they don't get here and say, oh, what? I didn't know I was going to have to pay for this. And, that they come in to our office knowing what to expect. And it makes the process just much easier and a happier process, because a lot of people, it's a big investment, the first time homeowners and whatever, even investors, whoever it may be, we want this to be a smooth process with a home and a champagne closing, Jewel. You come in here, you buy a house, you pop some champagne, you get a chocolate kit. There it is. Yep.
I have mine.
Yep, exactly. And so we like to have a good time. We understand that it's a happy moment for a lot of people. You're buying property. It's for many people the biggest investment they make in their life. And so, we certainly handle our business on the back end, but once you get in here, we like to have a good time, and we understand it's for most people, it's a cheerful experience. And if we can communicate to the agents and you communicate to them how it's going to be, what you're going to pay for, things like that. Once they get here, they're coming in there, signing their documents. They're going home with their home after some champagne, and it's a good time for everyone, right?
Yes, that's a few of the things that I love and what sets title management apart is, one, when a condition arises, if something is found on the title manager is proactive. So as an agent, I don't want to get that call saying, hey, we have a problem and this is just a problem. Title management has a way of saying, hey, this is the problem. We're already on it. This is what we've done. This is where we are. And this is what's going to happen. So I definitely can appreciate that. New Orleans Home Search by Crown Jewel Realty allows you to search listings in New Orleans and surrounding areas. There's a filters icon in the upper right-hand corner. It allows you to customize your search to fit all your real estate needs. You can search listings, favorite listings, schedule showings, even run numbers in the mortgage calculator, and locate local schools with high ratings. Most of all, it allows you to connect directly with Crown Jewel Realty agents. Download New Orleans Home Search today. After you've gone through the transaction, you're working with the seller, you're working with the seller's agent. Things are not always happy, and everybody is not always pleased with each other by the end of it, especially after I'm done negotiating. So it's nice to come to the closing and you have the champagne and you have cookies and everybody is more relaxed. They're happy to be here now. We've went through the storm. They know what to expect. And now they can have some champagne, which we love, and just celebrate and have a good time.
All about having a good time. After the hard work's done, it's a celebration, or as you like to say, a celebration, right?
Celebration, yes. So, one last thing, Dante, I just want you to share what's like a funny story or just a story you can share with us about your experience in this business.
All right. Well, you mentioned that story as kind of a funny story. It's who's it funny for though when the people lose their house, right?
Oh, I know.
It's a good story about why you should buy title insurance. I'll give you just a quick little goofy one. In the mortgage papers, there's always a signature affidavit which says, or a name affidavit which says you may have gone by any of these names. So sometimes it's a lady and her first and last name and then her maiden name and a married name, or maybe an initial in there. And there's just a list of a few, usually 3 or 4 maybe, which may have maybe you may have gone by this name at some point. Well, the other day, not long ago, we had a gentleman in here. He was Eastern European with a nice long last name, right? And on the signature page, it was about 14 names long about how many times people screwed up his name or misspelled it and all that funny stuff. All that we thought it was pretty funny. Usually it's a three or four name list, and he had half a page down there because of how long his name was. But he came from Russia on a whim and ended up buying a house with us after being in the States for a few years, and we were happy. He was happy, and we were happy for him. But that was a funny part. I laughed out loud in the thing. I said, I've never seen one that long with this many misspellings of a name.
I have a client named Michael Hernandez, and there's like millions of Michael Hernandez.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, he's Michael. Yeah, exactly. So those type of things come up, and it might not be funny to everyone. It's funny when you're in the closing room. So
yeah,
it's title humor, Jewel. It's title humor.
I love it. I get it.
Right.
I get it. Well, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad to have had you here and just to share this information. And I invite everyone that's watched us today to share it with your friends and family on Facebook, Instagram. You'll also see a post on YouTube with all this information. And you can always email me, Dante, providing me with some wonderful handouts to follow up with you with. As he stated before, he has 70 ways to lose your house, which I know I definitely want to read all those 70 ways and know for myself what they are.
One way to stop it: buy owner's title insurance, right?
And you already know the answer, right?
Yeah.
And
now your listeners know too, right?
Yes, exactly. So you guys are well informed if you listen to New Orleans Home Search. And also, I want you to go ahead and download New Orleans Home Search app to your phone. It's available on the App Store and Google Play. This is your way to get accurate access to listings. You'll have access to all the listings included into the Realtor's MLS system. So you'll have up-to-date information on what's on the market now. You'll be able to schedule an appointment to see these properties. You can look at the mortgage calculator and run your numbers, figure out how much your mortgage payment is going to be and if this investment really works for you. And you can also search nearby schools, all their ratings, which will help you pick out exactly what neighborhood will best suit you and your family, if that's your choice. So New Orleans Home Search app is available to you. And New Orleans Home Search podcast, of course, is available on the first and third Thursday of every month. Today, it was all about closing costs. And stay tuned for our next show. We're going to continue to give you information and insight on the real estate industry. Thank you, Dante.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me. One thing as we go for a thank you to your listeners and give them the Dante discount. If they come close here at Title Management Group and they mention this podcast, they heard it, we'll give them $150 off at closing. So,
oh wow,
there it is.
That can go towards your title insurance. Awesome.
Anyway, yeah, we really appreciate it. We love working with you. We certainly appreciate it. I'll come on anytime if your clients or people you're talking to want to learn about certain things that I can help, just reach out and I'm happy to do so. And like you said, make sure your listeners are emailing you and we'll get them these handouts. It's good to have during when they're looking to buy or sell, just different tools for them. And we're happy to provide that for you. So thanks again for having us on. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you for coming. I appreciate y'all. And I can, as always, help you with buying, selling, or investing in real estate. I'm with Crown Jewel Realty. We have a team of 10 agents. We do everything from residential to property management to commercial real estate. We have a new resource available called New Orleans Home Search. It is an app. It's available on Apple Play and Apple Store and Google Play. So definitely download New Orleans Home Search and stay tuned for New Orleans Home Search podcast. We are on the first and third Thursday of every month, coming to you with insightful information about real estate and New Orleans. Peace out, y'all.
Only on UrbanSmartNetwork.com.